26-8. That was a strong arming from the 49ers, and I'd have to say a flawless game from Brock Purdy here in the wind against one of the top ranked defenses in football. That's what it looks like in Cleveland, and we're inside right now, so you can't tell how hard that wind is blowing off of Lake Erie, which is just on the opposite ends of the north stands. But it was howling today, and Brock Purdy was damn impressive for the 49ers. He reportedly told his teammates that he was going to make up for the 3 interception game last week, which came in a win against the Carolina Panthers. And I would say that Brock Purdy more than made up for it in today's victory for the 49ers, who moved to 9-4 in absolutely amazing playoff position with this win. They're likely to move to 10-4 after their bye week. They play the Tennessee Titans. That's the worst team in football. And to make things better for San Francisco, the Rams just lost to the Carolina Panthers. And guess who turned the ball over 3 times for the Rams? That's right, Matthew Stafford. 2 picks, including a pick six and a fumble at the very end of the game. 31-28, Carolina beats LA. So the Rams move to 9-3. The 49ers are now only a game out, and they have a better divisional record than the Rams as they've moved to 9-4, and also a better conference record. The 49ers 8-2 in the NFC, although this win came over the AFC. So now we'll see how Seattle does. But the last time that the 49ers played an elite defense on the road, it was the Houston Texans. And I said that Mac Jones, who was really good for the 49ers as QB2 in his starts this year, I said the 49ers really needed Brock Purdy. They needed that mobility to get away from an elite pass rush, to extend some plays. They needed somebody with the moxie, the chance-taking downfield to be able to decondense an elite defense. They didn't have that against the Houston Texans. They absolutely had that today here against the Cleveland Browns. Purdy, 16 of 29, 168 yards. The casuals are going to look at the stat line and think, oh, well, it was a ho-hum game. But it was a beautifully managed game against a ferocious defense. The 49ers wanted the ball from the very get-go of this one. You never see Kyle Shanahan say, I want the ball. He had Kyle Juszczyk go out there and call tails. It was tails, and Juszczyk said, we want the ball, and I wondered why. And the 49ers had a few tricks up their sleeve to try to imprint their mark on this game. Unfortunately, they had a punt after a first play completion to Juszczyk, gained quite a bit of yards that they were passing throughout the first 4 downs, trying to loosen up that Cleveland defense. It didn't work. They had a punt, but they got a stop against the Browns. And then it was Sky Moore, 66-yard punt return for the 49ers. I'm sure nobody's arguing against that 6-7 pick swap to acquire Sky Moore right before the season now. But that punt return allowed the 49ers to get right back into their drive one script, which included a trick play. It was incomplete. Christian McCaffrey got the pitch back, and then he tried to throw downfield. It looked like George Kittle got knocked down or fell down, so that disrupted the play. But it showed you where the 49ers' minds were entering this game. The 49ers wanted to score early, get a lead against the Browns, push Shedeur Sanders into passing mode, and they ultimately were able to do that thanks to the special teams bailout. The 49ers now have the #1 special teams unit in the entire league, which I think is the greatest plot twist of this entire NFL season. They were dead last, number 32 last year, and now they have Sky Moore returning punts and kicks on a near weekly basis. They had Darrell Luter Jr., who infamously touched the punt in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs that turned into the muff for the 49ers. They had him recover a muff from Cleveland today. Special teams was that missing link for the 49ers, and it's fitting that it set the table for San Francisco early in this football game. Statistically, this was not an explosive performance for either team, and we didn't expect it to be, especially in these types of conditions here in Cleveland. The 49ers had 252 yards of total offense. The Browns had 253 yards of total offense. But this was going to come down to who took care of the football to enable the arm wrestling match to go their way. And the 49ers defense, I mean, they started to develop a knack for these clutch 4th and short stops early in the season. We all remember week 5 against the Rams in overtime. Today they got a 4th down stop early That was courtesy of Jordan Elliott, the former Brown, and Malik Mustafa is looking like a missile again. I think that he's well on his way to recovering. Well, he's recovered from the ACL tear, but well on his way to being back at full speed. He came in on that blitz, and the 49ers were able to completely stonewall Quinshon Judkins in the backfield. Later on, they had good interior pressure again on another 4th and 1 decision from Kevin Stefanski, and there was a fumble. Shedeur Sanders on the exchange was unable to execute cleanly, and the 49ers got the ball fairly deep in Brown's territory. That helped set up the touchdown that put, at the time, it seemed to me that it put the game away. As soon as the 49ers went up more than a possession, it was Brock Purdy with his legs. He had to use his arm, he had to use his toughness. So, I mean, we saw at the end of the first half today, Purdy was dropping dimes far downfield in windy lake effect conditions. I mean, uh, the absolute foolishness that we had to hear on the short week, and thankfully it was only a short week since the 49ers played on Monday, but the foolishness that we had to hear about Purdy's arm talent because he was, tried to put some touch on what I thought were ill-advised throws against the Carolina Panthers. That all put to rest on this field today. You saw Purdy throw from around the Browns helmet, that midfield logo, to the far corner, way over. I don't know if you could see my finger. Yeah, way over there to that corner. Put one up beautifully. I mean, it was a rope to George Kittle in the teeth of this wind, and that was right before halftime. 49ers had to settle for a field goal because the officials didn't see George Kittle call for timeout until 4 seconds left. But when we saw all those throws from Brock Purdy today, when we saw his running ability, took in the read option off of a beautiful fake for San Francisco to give them the 2-score lead. I mean, this was as close to a flawless game as you could imagine. He was even getting into a nice little back and forth with Myles Garrett, and that started on play 1 when Garrett hit Brock Purdy on the throw to Kyle Juszczyk, and they're both talking trash a few times in this one. It would always end with a smile and a fist bump. So when you see that type of respect coming from one of the greatest to ever play the game in Myles Garrett, that kind of respect going toward Brock Purdy, then it means a whole lot more than people making stuff up on Twitter after a win against the Carolina Panthers. Don't take wins against the Panthers for granted, by the way, because Matthew Stafford just turned it over 3 times and lost to Carolina. I thought that this game was closer than it should have been for a long time because I thought that Kyle Shanahan should have gone for the 4th and 3 in the second quarter from about the 40-yard line. His decision to punt there was not congruent with his decision to take the ball at the start of the game. I mean, the offense is the locomotive for the 49ers team. You've got to let them pull the train. And when the 49ers punted, they were 3 yards away. They're up 7-0 at the time. They were 3 yards away from maybe putting this game away early. I mean, the Browns scored only 8 on the game, and instead of going for those 3 yards, they kicked it away, and then they got a bad taste of medicine after that. The Browns went 90 yards. They ran the ball 9 times in a row, and that set up a wide open play action touchdown pass from Shedeur Sanders to the tight end. That's what got Cleveland on the board the only time in this game. And hopefully it was a reminder to Kyle Shanahan that your offense is the strong point of this football team. Brock Purdy is the strong point of this football team. If he didn't get the reminder on the defense's struggles over those 90 yards, he should have gotten that reminder immediately after that, where he told the offense to start at their 35 with, 39 seconds to go, a couple timeouts, and he challenged the offense to push the ball downfield. It's wild that Shanahan was okay with the offense being aggressive in that situation, but not aggressive when they only had 3 yards to pick up on 4th and 3. And I thought that was the 49ers' low point of this game, the worst decision of this game. It made it closer than it needed to be for a while, but ultimately talent rises to the top. And in the second half, Purdy, McCaffrey, Jawan Jennings with a touchdown, George Kittle, Kyle Juszczyk had a couple catches in this game, although he did exit with a rib injury later. Those guys straight up took over. Myles Garrett might have given Trent Williams a lot of trouble today, but Brock Purdy gave Myles Garrett more trouble than Garrett gave Trent. Because Purdy's mobility, you saw him escape the pocket many times. His quick release, there was one time when Myles beat Trent, but Purdy was able to just get the ball off in time to Kyle Juszczyk. And, it was only a 3 or 4 yard game, but the difference on the play that Brock Purdy executed was the difference between a damaging sack, a 6 or 7 yard loss, and a 3 or 4 yard gain. That's a 10-yard swing. And there were so many of these little 10-yard swings in the 49ers' favor that Purdy was able to execute today to eliminate Brown's negative plays and deliver 49ers positive plays and keep the ball moving without any turnovers. That led to the 49ers strong arming the victory in this one. They're going to be a little bit bruised for sure. This was a very good physical Cleveland opponent, but what a time for a bye week. Finally, the latest bye week in 49ers history. On the defensive side of the ball, I mentioned Mustafa, I mentioned Jordan Elliott. Those were both super impressive plays. 2 sacks for Cleveland Farrell. So he now has 4 sacks over 5 games with the 49ers. Keon White also registered a sack and 2 quarterback hits in this game. So those are the 2 guys who the 49ers acquired about a week ahead of the trade deadline. So several narratives blown up today on this field. One, the narrative that Brock Purdy somehow isn't right and shouldn't be this team's quarterback. Well, he just took the number 1 defense in the game to school, at least the number 1 D line in the game to school. 2, people were trying to tell me that the 49ers didn't acquire help pass rushing at the deadline. Well, Cleveland Farrell and Keon White have combined for over 5 sacks in the month since the deadline. 3 sacks on the field today. Hot pursuit of Shedeur Sanders for those 2 guys. I think that if there is a weakness of this 49ers defense, it is at the linebacker level. And the 49ers are obviously anticipating Tatum Bethune back at some point later this year. Fred Warner, that'd be a miracle, maybe by the Super Bowl, but again, don't expect that. The signing of Eric Kendricks to the practice squad might be the missing puzzle piece for this 49ers defense. I know that they were good throughout most of this game today. They swallowed up the Browns, but that wasn't a very good offense. That 10-play, 90-yard drive where the Browns ran on 9 straight of the plays, that has to be concerning for San Francisco. But big picture is the most important. 49ers offense showed every bit of elite potential in this game. I said that I'd be blown away by 20 points, and they scored 26 against the Browns. I mean, these were windy conditions. These were tough conditions that the 49ers prevailed in. 26 points against Cleveland, and this defense, a strong arming with good decisions from Brock Purdy, essentially played within himself the game plan that we said that they probably should have played last week against Carolina, against the worst defense. Maybe Kyle just told Brock Purdy to take some chances last week because the 49ers didn't hold Carolina in such high regard. Today, they absolutely held the Browns defense in very high regard, played within himself, calculated, aggressive, offense-first mentality. The only time the 49ers strayed away from that was when they punted on 4th and 3, but they more than made up for it later in the game. That is a clean, complimentary win. They came out guns blazing on offense. Even when they did have to punt earlier than they expected, the special team set them up. Sky Moore, 66-yarder. Then that first touchdown to put them up 7-0. Even when they blinked on 4th and 3, the offense took the reins back. Brock Purdy threw that beautiful dime downfield to George Kittle to set up the Matt Gay field goal ahead of halftime. And then offense, defense, special teams combined to slam the door. 49ers have already, I think they had already announced their status as contenders in this league, but now it is completely solidified. They're 9-4. They're right in that NFC race. The Rams have also lost, and you know what? Because Matthew Stafford turned the ball over 3 times and the Rams lost to the Carolina Panthers, I think it may be Jimmy Garoppolo time in LA. All right, everybody. So long from the press box here in Cleveland. I've got to head down to the 49ers locker room. The 49ers have beaten the Browns 26-8. They are 9-4. 10-4 is very likely because the Tennessee Titans are coming up next after the bye. We'll talk to everybody soon.